To start on footwork today, and I want to break it down to real simple things, and as we go along to give you an idea how those things fit into the larger jobs that we have to accomplish in our training. Let's start with a difficult optic thing that I'd like you to work on until it's absolutely straight in your head, especially your visual mind. We're going to have to put our body and our feet at an angle that is not related to where we're going. So this is the beginning of this miserable job of optics, where you are fooling people into just turning their brains off, not having any idea which way you're going. And of course you have to start by fooling yourself. So let me show you my feet and imitate me as we get you absolutely clear as to how to see yourself, the angles of your body and your feet in relationship to an enemy or an opponent. The opponent, because our movement is a pivoting one, we don't face with the leading foot into an opponent and with the far foot face at right angles, even though that was the millennia-long, thousands of years in which people fought. Their favorite arm was the one to the front, and their shield was to the back, and they generally faced their feet away from each other, pointing. The fencer today still generally goes in those lines. We don't. Ours are on the oblique, on the diagonal. You, as opponent, would not have me pointing my foot this way, but halfway that way. And parallel to that, halfway this foot also. So that and not only are the feet halfway pointed that way, but also my body is pointed that way. So that my relationship to opponent is never in this line, or in that line, or in this line, but at an angle. And that includes the body angle that will go into the beginnings of our footwork. What you have to do if you're just starting is to make sure you can see yourself this angle to an opponent, that as you shadow box, and I don't care really, do anything you feel like, or as you punch somebody or defend an imaginary opponent, see how quickly it takes you before your brain once more has you in line to an opponent, and even with the old fencer's thing, rather than on the oblique. Understanding then that to move into an opponent, you're going to have to become crab-like. In-out has to be crab-like. In a funny way, almost a sidestep. This is just a note. We don't have to practice that, but it's important for your orientation. So I need for you to reorient yourself towards an opponent by way of 45-degree angles in general. Now these things can vary, but they should not vary enough towards this pointing away from each other, or balletist thinking, because it'll really interfere with some of our important movement. Okay, so as you're moving, you're continually working at angles. At angles, at first, for simplicity's sake, let's make it an oblique, a diagonal, for purposes of seeing ourselves in a whole new way in relationship to an opponent. Even though we will be bringing our feet together for certain reasons, obviously, and also there'll be times where we'll be bringing them apart, the basic signal I would like you to send to your legs is that they establish a habitual, a constant distance. To me, it's slightly larger than shoulder width, or around shoulder width. Some people work wider, but it's a distance that you keep coming back to, and that even though there are things you have to do, you still, you continuing to come back to that distance because it's become a habit. Those two things are good foundations before we start on our fun Irish jig, and I want to go over them for just a moment. Orienting yourself, not only while standing still, but also while in motion, and putting pressure on yourself, combative pressure, in your mind, doing stuff, moving around, trying to get in and out, punching or kicking or defending, and making sure that throughout this, your eye doesn't, without you realizing it, your eye brain doesn't begin to put you on line, rather than on the diagonal. And moreover, that your feet are also on on an oblique. Secondly, that as you move various ways, you continue to want to have a certain distance that's perfect for you. And even though often you can't really do that, I mean, still you're continually trying to come back to that distance. That gets us ready to go on to the Irish jig. It was one of the great gifts to the pugilists, to the hoodlums, the brawling hoodlums, that they brought that Irish jig. They approximated that boink, 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 and the Scots did it and the Irish did it. You sort of jumped up and down and did stuff. Sometimes you jumped on one leg, but generally you didn't mind hopping on both. Sometime in the 19th century, that became the way everybody wanted to go and would like to go. And it was an immense ace, and brought out, and was one of the things that brought out the true superiority of the Irish fighters. So it behooves us to do a few simple things after we learn how to sort of approximate that jig. So let's not worry about boxing, but just see whether we can boink around some. I have some rope here on the ground that'll eventually give you an idea of where we're going. I'll just keep moving the rope to satisfy any problems you may have. Okay, let's go on to the Irish jig. Or at another party, it's time to show our manhood, and the jig has started. Who would think that craziness would have anything to do with anything except jumping up and down? Well, what if we keep our feet the distance apart that I suggested? That is, we're always about shoulder width apart, one foot from the other. Even if we have to do stuff, we come back to that. So what if we do that craziness, but we do it with the feet apart? Not all the time, but always wanting to be just the right distance, and at that. We're not angling yet. We haven't got an opponent. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. And what if we soften? We make it much softer. We ourselves become much softer and turn into that seaweed. I am a seaweed. I am floating in water. That whole seaweed-like mental state, seaweed-likeness in the ring, seaweed-likeness which we have as a basic idea, and we attach it to this foolishness. What we get then is a soft, but not slower, important version of this, especially if in order to save ourselves, we don't clunk down. We don't do that. We float down. Our heels just barely float to the ground on an infinite cushion of soft material. So, life is pretty simple then. Or even softer. Which we should do. Let's say we had to go to the right in a sort of, just go to the right, right? Or forward. Or backward. To the left. Obvious, all obvious. Except it couldn't be done for more than a fraction of the round. And everybody slowly, and I don't think quite consciously, flattened out. Flatsy-watsy. And something had to be done so you could keep that wonderful, continual, all the specs that go with boxing. Continuous movement. Movement that fools people. Good optics. Distance control. And so what we all ended up with was slipping on a banana peel. Slipping on a banana peel. Instead of, we had to go, we slipped on a banana peel. It gave us the one requirement of the footwork of Western boxing, which is that everything you do, including the footwork, has to be in the punching speed area. So you can't take all day. You haven't got half a week in order to go. You don't have half a week. You have punching speed at the speed of a punch. Bip is when you have to move. It all has to be the same speed because we're going for continual movement as our important and necessary optic. So this satisfied that. You see, that is at punching speed. But since you can't do that, you have to move at punching speed, and the recovery has to be at punching speed. So let's imagine we slipped on 2 banana peels, which some jokester put in our way, and we have to do that because that's where we have to go. We have to go there right away. Well, let's just slide over to the sides, fairly straightforward. Forward and backward. Forward. And while we're here, let's take one other approach. Instead of sliding that quickly, what if we more relaxed and sort of strut, walk? We're still sort of sliding, but we're evening out the time interval. Instead of slide and then a moment of pause, we're strutting. Can we get somewhere, maybe, so we can build a style that gives the genius of all these ways of going? Could we somehow keep something of that wonderful, sleek jig and still get not get completely creamed both by the aerobics and by its limitations, and that easy for yourself? And put what you think of as your weaker foot forward. So on our oblique, if I'm right-handed and think of my right hand as being a harder hitting hand, for a while, let's put the left foot forward. We're on the oblique, and we're going to slip to the left. Just a bit. Close up with the right, so we're in the same distance. Do it again. That'll be our first component. Okay, I'm going to let you look at that with these ropes to give you a sense of direction. Then I'm going to take the ropes away. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do it one more time, and then we'll have to assume there was some kind of conflict. So, that's our first job. That's our first job. We're going to do it perhaps from the Irish style, huh? Right? Okay? Let's also do it slipping on a banana peel. Let's strut. The one thing about getting completely away from the Irish thing, and even its slipping on a banana peel compromise, is that the strutting gives us a chance to go heel to toe, not ball of the foot to heel, but heel to rolling from heel to ball of the foot, which is an important thing to do for many things we need, and is the way that the Sichuan boxers of China feel they want to move. A lot of what we do will in fact be heel to toe. The strutting gives us a chance to polish that. So heel to toe. I mean the strutting then. Once more, the Irish way of looking at it. Let's do one more after that. Slipping. Strutting. Now, I'd like to now completely reverse that. That would have the far foot going this way and the near foot closing up. So let's do that. From the Irish point of view, slipping on a banana peel, or strutting. Let's say that our consciousness in this little fragment has to now increase. So it's all completely smooth or keeps a certain kind of a normal rhythm. You decide what you want to do. Okay. Like a big change from what we did just a minute ago. We went right, we went left. But this time we're going in a specific sequence, aren't we? We're slipping to the left with the leading foot first. And then we're catching up. And we're trying to do that twice without any break in the rhythm that we start with. So let's play with that first, okay? We've done the Irish thing, and we've slipped, and we found our way somewhere between the actual hop and sort of a slip. And we find we can do that. We can go. Now, this time, we're not going to do it to the side in general as a movement, but now it becomes part of a very important idea that I'd like you to see. Instead of being in line this way or that way, I'd like you to think of being on the arc of an imaginary circle. Think circle. And the circle that we're about to work with, we are deliberately tightening, making the circle smaller, because we're about to use this to attack. So this to the side, so what's going to be to the side is going to be in a circle to the left front. And in our mind, we see ourselves quickly moving in, even though we're not going directly into somebody. So let's look at the feet again and begin to play with that whole concept. Is to go to the left at a fairly sharp angle, in. And the left foot doesn't just cross, forgive me, the far foot, the right foot doesn't just cross. It crosses, but comes very much in while crossing. Now let's practice that. There might be, when you're really going for a certain kind of grace, you might as well take on the job of trying not to settle your heels on the ground for a moment. I don't mean for more than a few steps, but for a moment to really go for speed. So we have a lot of ways that you can stylize eventually what we're doing. Right now, do all of them. And we're going to go twice. It's not that easy. We're going to go twice without a break in feeling then, right? Irish? More slipping. Completely slipping. Right, in, right? And then strutting and trying to keep the same speed. Now, it behooves me to also give you some other ideas in case you don't necessarily want to take this into the American ring. In the general Chinese-Japanese group of moves, you might want to apply this to the horse, to the traditional horse. The Okinawans wouldn't be that far out. Just apply it to the traditional horse. And with a body sort of upright. The same device here, rethinking this whole Chinese thing as being on the oblique, rather than your previous possible orientations, would then be either two hops, or would be darting. absolutely workable from a Kung Fu or Karate point of view. And the Thai boxers, of course, have the additional problem as they're learning this footwork, as they're beginning to commit themselves to continuous movement rather than non-movement into movement. The Thai boxers are going to have to continually protect that leading leg and be continually off as much as possible off that leg, because you know it's going to be attacked. So you couldn't just blithely do that. You'd have to, when the far foot recovers, that the leading foot has got to be somewhat off the ground, because probably, I mean not probably, you have to be ready for traffic. That gives us a more of a rocking horse thing that the Thai boxers find themselves forced into. And you might enjoy working on that stylization also. That would be more of a rocking horse thing, because their nonsense comes partially from the necessity to not have their weight on that leg, because if it gets hit, it's serious. It's a serious problem. There's one other thing, one other style. It is a body movement thing, and it wouldn't hurt us to do that also. So here we're going, instead of attacking, just with ourselves upright and relaxed, we might want to attack with actual body movements. That pretty much restricts our footwork to sliding. That Irish, the jig is hardly, I mean, it can't be done while you're doing body movement. So choose your body movement as you would attack. How would you attack with this? Going then, attacking with that. Huh? I would go down and over here. You might find other body movement, but it's seriously to your advantage if you feel that you're sophisticated enough at this, with this little unit now, and I'm sick and tired of it, to start adding body movement. In this case, for this little fragment, it will be attacking body movement, which for me would be drifting over like that. So now we have attacked, and now we have another job, which is as important as the footwork we artificially took out of context. Once we've gone in a circle, we are not going to go in a circle on the third move, but we're going in. So now your visual mind has to become comfortable with circle, circle, line. With that movement in, I would like you to throw some traffic. I don't care what it is. Leading arm. I don't want to get into the subtleties of stepping in and throwing a far arm at the same time right now. I need it like a hole in the head. Let's just break that down then. Slipping. It's definitely an attack, but it doesn't really look like one, we hope. Huh? Now we abandon the concept of the circle and slip straight in for our third move with something nice coming out of the left hand. And if you're studying this from a karate or kung fu or Thai boxing point of view, that might be a leg, ho-ho, which I can't go into right now. As long as it's an attack that naturally flows out of, without break, without change in anything. So the attack flows directly out of your movement. So we have, from an Irish point of view then, or even more, much more slipping on a banana peel. The step in can be angled some, but what's important is that we're deliberately using the circle in order to create a nice optic so that the line spilling out of the circle is what gets us to be able to throw that leading traffic jab. I would say a jab, but no, not necessarily. We could strut, no? And going then with the Easterners. I'm sorry, I better do that body movement. So using mine and realizing that it merely stands for what you are doing, it would be then the people working with horse stances could either hop, or break that up, dart. The Thai boxers, of course, possibly that third one may not be a step in. May want to be a leg going directly in with that Thai way of kicking. So play around with that. We don't need to develop a style yet. Turn me off and play around. Remember what we're looking for. We can't break the texture. Whatever took us to the side has got to look exactly the same as our circular movement, even though it's not at all. It's in. And there shouldn't be any change until we've gained a great deal of milliseconds from that optic, from that deception. Continuity of movement, evenness of movement, movement that implies the speed of punches, so when punches or kicks come, there is no change, you see. It does us no good to be completely sleek. That's worse than nothing. I mean, I've seen professionals, and I mean, they just carve you up and eat you up when they see that break, that gigantic break, you see. This, okay. Well, the moment you get through enjoying that, turn back on again, because we have to do exactly the opposite. In order to get anything out of the movement that we learn, in this case, a movement that in 3 blips tightens a circle and then goes from circle to line, attacking, we now, in order to learn that really well, we must learn the opposite. Must. So we have to loosen the circle, make the circle larger to defend ourselves, and in the 3rd blip, we've got to expect traffic to come at us. So we're going to go far, for me, right foot, slipping in a circle and leading, then the left foot, right foot again, left foot again, and then possibly back with the right foot. You understand now that in that same smoothness that we attacked, we now have to teach our opposite, teach to us our opposite using exactly the opposite movement, which is defensive, increasing the circle, and then getting away from traffic. I'm going to keep life real simple. So on that 3rd step, when the person has come in and I'm just going to, to drop, just to drop away, to make life easy. I don't really care what you do, as long as you're completely alert to traffic coming at that point. So back, then back altogether. Back. Slipping more, slipping more. strutting. It's in the strutting that the defensive move, I think, is most subtle. This is Jersey Joe Walcott's kind of stylization. Huh? Or even from that Chinese horse. From the Thai boxer's point of view, you might have to take that leg out altogether. And with body movement. So we have exactly the opposite, increasing the circle and then suddenly finding pressure coming directly at us. And now one more change. You've now done the movement to the left, in, to the right, out. The modern boxer is probably going to have to end up on two sides. So I really think you may want to end up also going on the other side so that your right foot is leading and you're going to the right in and to the left out. But there's one other change in your practice that I want to add, and that's a change in sequence. In this case, what I'd like to suggest is that right after you get through with step, step in, or step, step out, that we also go in, step, step, change the sequence, in, step, step, out, step, step. So let's look at that. Well, before, we went beep, beep, bop. Now we've got to go bop, which will be with a step in, and then up. So we have sliding, sliding, shuffling, that is walking in the park. Probably, let's say the attack were high and we were using our body. And certainly, the Kung Fu is the karate. That would be, we're assuming that we're not coming out of a kick here, we're just coming out of some kind of an attack. Let's try that. The ties then, and that's about it, isn't it? We can go the other way now. We have to do a defensive move. Here comes this traffic. For the beginning of a round, or for just moving around quickly, it's not an attack. It could be the beginning of a fight, an actual fight, or the beginning of a round. What we're going to do is go in at a sharp angle to start with, and close up with the other foot. and then go to the side, from in, straight to the side, and then go out with the other foot. Interesting combination, eh? In, side, out. Slower. In, inside. In, inside, out. Okay. I'll go over the styles with you again, but pretty soon I'm going to leave you to that. Okay? That would be inside out. Without even, ultimately Irish, without even touching the heels on the ground, okay? On the other hand, half the hop and half the slide, huh? And sliding. Strutting. Excuse me. Strutting. I'm anxious for you to sense that you turn more in the direction of where you're going. You don't keep this angle. You turn more, and you walk more heel to toe, so a whole new texture comes about. You see this? Using your body then, if you're working along the styles of Marciano and Fraser, using your body. Well, this is at the beginning, so probably you wouldn't right away do that, but if this were an actual fight, you might. Sure. In, sideways, out. By this time, I would suggest to those of you who are going to be taking this into the Far Eastern forms, the Chinese, Japanese forms, or Korean, and all the Thai boxers, you could begin to think on your own. I'm especially anxious that the Thai boxers get this element without endangering the front leg. That would be in. Probably that leg would have to be, and on that out, you would probably be ready for traffic with that leg if you think it's coming. Well, fine. The opposite of that would, of course, be out, to the side, forward, out, to the side, forward. Very good training. Out. That might not be that aggressive. It might not be that aggressive. It might just be forward. I don't want to put that attack into it right now. If you would take this to various textures, various stylizations, this is the beginning. We're working with a fairly tight circle. The other person is in motion. All this wouldn't be necessary if this were a civilian standing still. Let's take one more move then. But first, perhaps you'll join me in an experiment to see how this can be manipulated in sequence. What if instead of in, close up to the side, we go in, back. In, back to the side. In, back. In, back. In, back to the side. And then you could close up. In, back to the side. By the same token, out to the front. and to the side. Out. Out to the front, to the side. Out to the front, to the side. What other sequences can we manipulate there? We could go to the side, back, to the front. Yes? To the side, back, to the front. Nice. To the half front would be probably subtler, wouldn't it? Yeah. To the side, back, to the half front. To the side, front, to the half front. Yes, those could be very, very nice as fragments. So there is a methodology here that I want to discuss with you. It's fairly straightforward. We have moves 1, 2, and 3. Could we possibly want to do moves 1, 3, and 2? 1, or 2, 1, and 3. And 2, 3, and 1. And 3, 1, and 2. And 3, 2, and 1. If this is 1, and this is 2, and this is 3, then we already did 1, 2, 3. We did 1, 3, 2. How about 2? We can't go 2, 2, 3. Yeah, no, we can't. No, we can't, because 2, 3. Yes, 2, 3, 1. So we have 2, 3, 1. See if you want to manipulate those. Only those that are fun, that fit into your style, that have a fluency. But remember, we're going very deeply into tiny little fragments of movement. And we have to join up. We can't leave these little fragments in isolation. So let me then carry this practice one more step forward and ask you to make one more move after that triplet. We went to the half front. Right leg trailed correctly? Normally, I mean. We went to the side, and then back. Now, just for fun, let's shift weight after that. That's all. Leaving it to your alertness that, in fact, there could have been, you could have had a chance to attack, and there could have been an attack. But just shifting weight, quite difficult. But at least staying in motion, right? Here we have 1. On the other hand, going backward was then, excuse me, we are attacking, aren't we? Just shifting weight. No traffic is coming, you're just continuing the movement. And now a newcomer. Up to now, our body angle has in general been at an oblique to opponent or enemy. We saw ourselves doing this kind of stuff, and as we moved, whichever way we did, we pretty much kept at that angle. To be sure, there were a lot of body movements, but our sense of ourselves was this kind of thing. Now, we're going to change that in order to sharpen the deception that we may be able to get out of it. Instead of stepping, for instance, to the left, let's leave circles for just a minute and concentrate on pure technique. Instead of stepping to the left, the way we've now learned, with whatever texture you choose, we're actually going to face to the left, and we're actually going to step there as if we were walking in the park. So we have a whole other game from or to our body is now turning in the direction of where we're going. Um, and, um, and we completely change several things visually. The oblique that we're working with, whatever we do, becomes a whole series of other angles. Let's go slow on this to be sure that you have that feeling. If you don't, scrounge around in your video library. The histories, that is, I mean in your video rental place, and there'll be one or two histories of boxing, like champions or champion fights, or there's always something on the history of boxing, or the biographies of certain boxers. And the person that I'm like you to look at to get this really the way it feels and that we all got inspired by is Jersey Joe Walcott. So for the first time, we're not using this kind of angularity with those circles in order to deceive. We're now adding another deception, which is that. Like everything else, it has to be in the range of punching speed. So between steps and combat, there is no difference in rhythm or texture or anything. It's all the same water-like evenness. So we have stepping to the, doing that just for technical, just to learn it. Huh? Let's do it out of a simple. Just let's do it out of this. Slowest? Obviously, that makes things fairly dramatic. You're covering more distance. You're certainly covering more distance, and the angles are so weird that unless somebody reacts very quickly, that angle then gives way to another angle, and usually it's over. This was Jersey Joe Walcott. It could be called shuffling. It is a serious break, not even a compromise, with the Celtic jig. I mean, no matter, it's a serious break. It's a whole other way of going. Having done it to that side, let's go right around the clock. I hate to be so pedantic, but it's a very important tool to create a whole visual thing. So let's step and become very aggressive with this, right? Let's do it out of that same thing again, right? The people who depend on this kind of footwork, usually keep their gloves down. And the gloves begin to float in that same stream of water. So if you want to have even more fun with this is not a burden I want to hand you. Let the, as you see these things as deception, you can see, the gloves or the fists or the arms, besides the body angles, start adding to the weird angles that we're using. It's not, I don't believe it's helpful to think of circles for a minute. Let's think of lines for a moment. We would, very important use is of course to defend. You really turn that way. You're not doing this. Let's say we were really leaving, huh? But you're actually turning that way. There's a continual feeling that you're completely, that you're not protecting yourself. Your gloves aren't where they're supposed to be. They're down and they're floppy and it's all, you're completely open. I mean, there shouldn't be any reason not to, okay? So Take a look at the first round of Leonard Hagler and watch Leonard's use of that defensively as he works from here, you know. Here is, let's go with the right foot. Quite defensively, really defensively. Notice now that we are changing the technique of the step. I've hinted at this 3 times now. I'm going to repeat it one more time because it turns out to be important as it ties into other things. We're no longer going on the balls of the feet. We've dropped, in this little thing, we've dropped the Celtic jig and its various compromises. We're really going heel to toe. We're rolling, and that roll itself is the source of deception. See, with that roll could come body movement. But please understand that you're going heel to toe. That was to get out. Huh? This is just neutral. This is very aggressive, Cahn. Has us stepping back. This time, we're not really defending. We're not attacking. We're just drifting back. We're vaguely. It always has to be at punching speed. That is in the area. Remember that when we take to this North American and Central American way of looking at fighting, we deliberately make even combative and what we thought of before as non-combative moves. They must be even in rhythm, in time, in texture, so that you continually have the advantage of optics. Here we are going back, kind of casual. Learn to do that. Learn to just drift back. Drift back. The front foot joins up, but very softly, and doesn't really settle down, okay? Doesn't settle down. You see it 100 times. It's one of those things that simply happens. From here, without a break, let's go normally to the left. Normally. What if we, instead of going to our regular thing to the left here, use that cute angle that we've just been working on? So we're here, just recovered for a split second when we take on another job. What about a side step? Side step, just to the side. Not in many ways. I'm ill at ease about that. It's very defensive. It's very safe. So, that instead of this kind of thing we've been working on so hard, all that we suddenly get fairly primitive, just stick to the side. It's usually a jump, and it's usually for safety. Sugar Ray Leonard, throughout those rounds with Hagler, you notice it's a wonderful way. Just hop, hop, hop to the side. The Daichi Chuan people will immediately recognize it as the beginning of their movement. From the boxing point of view, it's not a good time to have traffic coming. And overwhelmingly, the great boxers who use this do it knowing they're taking themselves out of range. But it's an important safety device, and for self-defense, I think it's an important candidate. You would be going back, and just going straight to the side. No boxing here. This is the old sink and side step of the Kang Jong Fu. Doing that several times can safely get you out of a great deal of distance trouble. And onward. The disadvantage is that when you again are ready in your mind for combat, that is, you've done that, right? Now you can't stand there and say, well, I'm ready for combat. Without a break in rhythm, you've got to get back to whatever you do. So let's do that. Sugar Ray Leonard? So we went back and we learned the art form of having this foot be able to go anywhere we want. Typically, we might want to simply go here, or here, or jump. Very often, you go in. Or, even if you don't go in, because you seem so open, and on your back foot, the other person comes in. And a lot of critical, in-close exchanges are fought this way. Sugar Ray Robinson used to, without even realizing it, draw in. And at this point, Bobo Olson decided it was his time. Both times, it was this. And as Olson came in, that loose foot suddenly became settled. You see? Lulu Perez, being that kind of a counter-puncher, used to go that route a lot. That was what he did just before the 3 times he knocked down and eventually knocked down the great Willie Pep. It seems like a very simple-ass thing to do, huh? But let's go in from there to show the subtlety. You get a great optic there, you see. Let's take a look at it from the side so you can get an idea of the distance. Here we are. And we're being sort of leisurely. If you play with that, it's not an emergency. You're not getting away from for a moment. You're drifting back because you're drifting back. The front foot comes, the rear foot has drifted back, the front foot comes back but doesn't settle, and then does something. You cannot stay there any more than you can stay anywhere else. To be still means to get hit. When you begin to put these specifications, these harsh specs on your movement and on your combative forward, directly in and vaguely drift with that far foot, stepping forward, just vaguely stay on that front foot for a split second. Learn to vaguely drift. What you're giving is a distance that's really false. Are you with me? If you're already boxing, you can appreciate this. See, if you were to settle on both feet, you'd be here. But by just leaning for a moment on that front foot, you're giving the feeling that you're here, when actually you're immediately leaving that neighborhood. So let's parallel what we just did. Let's say that we go forward, and then we retreat normally. Right? This is where we're coming from. Or we retreat with that angle, the Walcott thing. or we actually go out. The moving in was just to make it safe for us to go out, okay? Again, staying on a defensive job, a self-defense, it's a defense job. In the ring, it's a defensive job. On the street, it's self-defense. Quick to the side, that is not normally, but really, really covering ground. And again, I don't know if I'm going to come from outside the frame, but you know very well what I'm doing. Right? And from there, let's say that we'd best go back to normal with our far foot going back, so we can continue to put more ground between the other person and us. What we have is 1, 2, and then normal. If we didn't have such an emergency, it might even be a good idea to do that earlier, huh? But sometimes we have to just leave. If you practice those, get that ability under real emergency to get yourself clearly out of range. The moment you're in range, it's not a good body position to do much attacking and defending. You need that extra split second to either get out or step in. Let's go to the other side. Yeah. Now remember, if you're willing to take the next step, we're no longer in kindergarten. Every one of these should be followed by a combative move. They should also lead into a combative move. So without any break in speed, at your own speed, you might want to go hop, hop, normal, here comes a jab. Or hop, hop, normal, here's your jab. So some combative move or body move that would follow without any break what you've just done. And then on the other hand, we of course have to begin to join up from our non-combative, so-called non-combative footwork into combative moves. So we just did that. I meant from combative moves into footwork. So let's say that things went down here, right? This, holy Moses. Or else it went down another way. Let's start here with with some kind of a block. Let's say some traffic came straight down the pipe. Pow! And we are going to block it. Huh? Right after that block, we're going to go back. So here we are, and here it came, and then we have to go back. Okay? How about going forward right after the block? You would probably be punching, but that doesn't interest me. Now, going back to the original job, we did some kind of a block, your own. Back, and now, for defensive reasons, also leaning back. So we have block, back, lean. Continue to do a clearly secondary defensive move, separate from the first one. Step, step. If you're having trouble tying that many moves together at this stage of the game, break the assignment up. Step, 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 lean, step. If you want to turn that around. All right. Now we're going to shift our weight forward again. So we have out, in. Out, up, in. Out, in. Let's say the in was more subtle, so it could be a feint. Out. Out. Let's learn to take the far foot in, so it's so natural, so relaxed, that it's invisible. Let's try that. Let's shift back and forward like we just did, and then just bring that in. I want it to be invisible. I'm sorry. What you've just done is created a really interesting optic. You've slipped in, and now this foot has a whole other range, and its movement is going to be completely different from what folks see. It was this slip in that brought Marciano into range so he could knock out Lewis. It's with that slip in that Kid Gavilan always started his attacks. Slipping in very quietly. With that slip in, Marciano, and then in, Marciano quickly reached the great Kid Matthews. So it's something for us to learn. Seems utterly dimple-minded. I mean, what's easier? But how invisible how can we tie it into other movements? So it isn't even there. I don't even want it to be there. And with that, let's step in. Or let's not. Let's just cross as we pursue. Good combination. Learn to slip in with a body shift that hides it. Take a look in the mirror. I mean, don't look at that foot. Hi. One more type of movement, and then we have to review, and then we have to talk about method. But before that, you get to look at this place that we're closing this lesson on. It's a farm in Northern California. Up to now, the movements have had the far foot agree with the near foot. If the near foot went this way, the far foot helped. Same thing the other way. If the far foot went a certain way, the near foot went that way. Whichever way we went, we generally had the feet working in unison. Um, After a certain group, things could certainly change. Directions could change, huh? But early in the 19th century, the jig suggested that you could change your mind in between beats. You could absolutely change your mind, and it became a very impressive optic. It was very easy to really throw people off by not necessarily going whatever else you did after that or before, but going here and then as quickly as possible, going the other way again. So changing your mind between right and left leg or left and right leg, you see. So this leg doesn't at all agree that it wants to go that way. It wants to go the other way, and in between those, you change your mind. That was a very nice thing that the traditional boxers gave us. So remember when we started, we kept things pretty simple. We went to the left and to the left. So, to the left, and then we added other things. Let's say we go to the left, right, left. Begin to change your mind as many times as you feel like, so that just because you're moving that way doesn't mean at all that on the next pulse you are going to be there. And again, it has to be without a break in rhythm. Watch any of the great stylists, and you'll certainly see that several times. Usually it's done in order to be moving nicely, way out of range. It becomes an important optic in range as you change your mind deliberately, so people can no longer really trust whether you're going a certain way for that next beat. By the same token, of course, you certainly had plenty of chance to review the fact that when you're going one way, you might well go any other way. That's very important for us. That without a break, remember that we went back and then forward again. So this immediately changed direction, see? Or the other way, huh? So the next and last of this first lesson is to not only be able to reverse directions after the two legs have done a unified thing, but to split that up even, so that as one leg goes one way, the other leg suddenly pulls the body the other way, and there's a perfect optic. The next really nice application of this idea is in our strut, in our Walcott, Lulu Perez kind of strut. Here, we would actually turn in the direction of our move, you see. We're actually going that way. Like Walcott coming out of a corner and just... And then, the moment we've settled down, that same settling down has to also take us in the other direction. And unlike the dance, where we pretty much, we hop, we hoppity hop, hop, hop. Here, we're actually facing that direction. And then absolutely facing in the next one with your waist and your whole body turning you. And that became a superb optic. Good enough so most people who use this style assume they can afford to keep their gloves down. So let's take that thing we started with, it's becoming obvious that you can't um, you can't take all day. Let's say you went to the left and you rolled on your foot, and you got to the ball of the foot, and you settled down, and then you think maybe you'd like to turn. The instinct that makes this very important, and boxing is merely a way of articulating it. It's true in everything that you do at combat and high competition level, is that the moment you're on here, the moment you even feel yourself rooting, you've got to get off. You see, you can't root solidly, do a nice number. That millisecond isn't available in the kind of footwork we're beginning to talk about. That's about as much vocabulary as you need. If you want to take any more from the various boxing videos and the history of boxing videos, remember, whatever you take from those people, make your units small. Don't remember 9 moves of Walcott just before he, or 12 moves of this, or the magnificent way that Muhammad Ali just before he, and those 19. Don't make this choreographic. That's my important caution. Keep it to 2-move building blocks. What happened when Foreman was in the ropes and Ali slipped to the half right and then went beep beep, and then the next 4 made history because he knocked Foreman out. 2 moves. Add a 3rd move to it. Use small units and let them drift deep into the learning brain. Okay. Time to talk about method. Okay. This is the fun part. We're going to be looking at the place where we're working out today. There is the goats and the rabbit is scared of everybody, so he doesn't want anybody to look at him cross-eyed. That's why he's facing away. You see? There they are. Fellow intensive students. There he is. And we can go from the house. Incredible tree line. It's latest morning fog. There are sheep. The sheep are not very smart. Not the smartest sheep, but they mean well. There's a whole bunch more over there. And the dark one is the mommy sheep, and she just had a lamb. There's the lamb. Now she's letting the lamb out of her immediate vicinity. The lamb is 3 days old. 3 days old. Mommy. Hi. Method. What I would do first would be to review the small movement groups as given, and then scramble them as you feel you need to, so that you can unlearn. For instance, the one little study that took you to the left would then be put next to a little study that took you back. Just start scrambling them and keep increasing your vocabulary that way. If that's too mind-frying, go to the same video store, and from your favorite moments in fighting, select the best and the most interesting footwork in small sections. Then I would take it first to the heavy bag. I would do my footwork and immediately punch, or do my body move, but immediately go into combative move to actually get some impact and not change the texture. Everything has got to be and look the same. So as you're moving, the punching and the moving have to be the same. You bust yourself on that. You would move into the combative movement, and you would do the combative movement and then move out. That would be for your aggressive movement. Your aggressive movement. You would do you would tie your aggressive movement through the bag at first into your footwork. They have to be tied in. That seam can't be a visible seam. What also has to be tied in is defensive movement. And so if you don't have a partner, if you have a partner, things become fairly easy. You would take set canned defensive moves and tie them into your footwork. You see, I don't mean to scramble your combative work with this drill, because that's a little too much scrambling. But let's say you had a certain defensive series set, that would have to be tied into your next footwork. That thing we had, and that's pretty much it. The key to this lesson is to make it all one movement, and therefore it behooves us to keep the footwork simple. If you want more fun, go to your favorite sequences. What did Schmeling do just before he knocked Lewis down the first time, that important time? How did Marciano manage that against Walcott? What were they doing with their feet? Less exotic things that happened just a few years ago, or just recently happened, and you've had a chance to go over it. Go over it slow motion, and do have a nice little thing where you go beep, beep, beep. But if you're going above 4 or 5 moves of what you think of as separable as footwork, you're beginning to sneak into a choreographic thing, which is no more than, this is what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to do, as if the enemy or opponent weren't even there. They were sort of adjuncts to what you were going to do. And which brings me to the next thing. If you're trying to have, to do that and have fun, or you feel that you have to do it, please do the opposite guy, the other guy. If you fell in love with the way Walcott stepped up there before he knocked out Charles, do Charles too. Do the opposite. If you're really impressed in the way that Marciano slipped in to knock out Matthews, do Matthews too. Don't just do the one that you really like, but be sure to do the opponent well. I mean, don't just pay lip service. Otherwise, this becomes a dangerous choreographic thing, and it's fun. I mean, you look good, but it won't really reach inside you to make you a categorically better boxer, and we hope a better fighting animal. That's pretty much it. You can put method together yourself. About the tapes and teaching and stuff like that. I'm next. This is now mid-February of '91. I'm in Northern California, but we'll be teaching in New Mexico. late spring and summer, and probably early fall. If you want to work out, write to Rolf Cahn, 1702 Cordelia, Cordelia, 1702 Cordelia. That's in Santa Fe, New Mexico at 87501. I'll be there in early, middle April. So if you want to write before then, it will be the California address, Box 375 in Bodega, California, 94922. Let me know whether you want to work out, get into one of the workshops or intensives. In New Mexico, that'll probably be up in the mountains near Taos. In California, I don't know yet. There are one or two sites like this one that we could work out. At. And of course, we always have Santa Fe, the gym at Santa Fe. The next tapes that I'm producing. You know by now that the script tape, the basic teaching tape of movement as therapy, is finished if you want one. The dance, the tape doing the dance, those tapes are now finished if you want them. The first one at the beginning, that tape is not good for people who don't already know the dance. It has to be redone. But if you already know the dance and want that tape that covers the dance for your homework, they're good. They're good. I'm going from here into the stretching, the very beginning of the Kung Fu work, which is the stretching and breathing concentrations. And I'm going to be doing that at the same time as a cassette in which I work on all the material we have pointed towards back and neck pain. Back and neck and that kind of joinery pain. There are so many people that have yelled for that orientation, that's next. Aside from the movement as therapy, which would then follow that tape. In sequence, you would take that back and neck pain tape and work off that, and then go to the one that's already available. After that, it'll be optics and continuity of movement. If you have any questions, please get in touch, either by mail or by phone. Please get in touch. And as you know, I'm anxious for you to start working out a system whereby you send me tapes of you doing what the training tape suggests, and then I will begin to critique what you're doing as well as I can, and give you an idea of how I would work from then on and what I see in your movement. The next tape that this dovetails into, that I'm now making, it's not available, is optics and continuous movement. And I'll get going on those sometime in the early spring of '92. Good road. Available. After that, it'll be optics and continuity of movement. Thank you. Hope you have fun with this. Let me give you one more look at this beautiful, beautiful land that you're closing out this cassette with. I'm going to take it up to the other side. Thank you. It's mid-February, Northern California, a very foggy day in the first year of the era of wars, I guess. Good road.